Yeah, y'all know what it is, man. It's your boy King Lucky Money Man, and I'm back with another video. You feel me? Listen. Oh yeah, it is real reaction videos. So first of all, thank you guys for taking us. We have already crossed the path of 10K subs. Now we're on the next journey of 15K subs. So if you're watching this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the post notification bell so when I drop another video like this, you'll be able to get it. The most important thing is hit that like button, hit that thumbs up. That way that this video can get into this algorithm and other people can see it. Basically, all they're doing is they're just telling YouTube, hey, I like what I saw and I watched this video. That's all it is. You know what I mean? So without further ado, this video we about to do now, it's about a model that was um murdered by an estranged guy, and he was, well, without further ado, let's get into the video, and I will be giving my commentary along with the video. But let's go ahead and check it out.
Somebody especially so young and with so much potential. It was a
Beautiful young
shocking
lady.
crime.
A young life cut short when the body of an aspiring model is found bound and gagged inside the refrigerator of her Los Angeles apartment. For months,
Wow.
the case went without any arrests until now.
I could see this going to trial because of the seriousness and quite frankly, the gruesomeness of the crime.
The last time anyone saw 31-year-old Melissa Mooney was September 6, 2023, when her apartment's surveillance system caught her on camera. She was headed up the elevator alongside a man and a woman. When days went by without any contact from Mooney, her family called police asking for a welfare check. That's when they stumbled upon a gruesome scene. Mooney's dead body was discovered inside her fridge, beaten and bound, showing signs of asphyxiation. According to court documents, investigators found her blood pooling beneath the fridge. The medical examiner ruled the manner of death as homicide, and for months, that's all
Wow.
we knew about the case. Cut to this month when suspected killer 41-year-old Magnus Daniel Humphrey is arrested in the case, some 2,000 miles away from the crime scene in Minnesota. We sat down with attorney and legal analyst Dina Saig-Dahl to make sense of the case so far. And it happened way
That's
back in
crazy.
September, so 6-ish months ago. Why would it have taken so long to track down a suspect?
It's a really good question because I think that they did probably find maybe either fingerprints or surveillance footage that helped them lead to the suspect. But the fact that it took so long, for one, this was such a gruesome crime. I don't think the police wanted there to be any mistakes in their investigation by the time they actually brought charges against who they think killed it. And I think it was probably more of that, making sure that they not only had the right person, that they had all the people that were involved. Because of the unusual nature of this crime, it wasn't very apparent why she was killed. It wasn't like it was obvious that it was a robbery or for some other reason. So I could see them having wanted to kind of make sure that there wasn't some unknown motive out there that they didn't know about it. And perhaps maybe they did discover, for all we know, more to be revealed on that end when this goes to trial.
Saig-Dahl says it's possible that
Number one, the dude is a straight up simp. I'm just gonna go and put that out there. Like I say, man, like what could have this young lady done for him to to do her like this? It's just sad, man. We are in an era now, man. You got guys that just doing these type of things to women, man, and just like it's nothing.
prosecutors have a motive in Mooney's murder, but haven't yet revealed it.
Absolutely. Either A, they found out a motive, and maybe that's what took them so long, is kind of tracking that down. Or you have this really unusual situation where a killing is so gruesome. I mean, you tend to see gruesome crimes, either one, when the person knows somebody, right? So it's like a crime of passion, or two, if there's some sort of serial killer involved, where this is just how they kill their victims. And we cannot tell from what we know of the suspect so far. It doesn't seem like there's evidence for either case. But if this does go to trial,
That's sad, man.
then we'll find out. Maybe they did find evidence that either he knew her, maybe he was even some sort of stalker. I mean, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see if they can connect him to her in any way.
So far, there's not much known about Humphrey, except that he pleaded not guilty to charges of murder and torture at an arraignment
Wow.
on Thursday. This after he was
Wow.
arrested in Minnesota and extradited back to Los Angeles. When he was taken into custody for Mooney's murder, there was already a federal arrest warrant out for him. It was issued in July 2023 when he failed to show up for a court hearing. He was on probation for a 2017 conviction for distributing heroin. He's all the way over in Minnesota.
See, now look, the guy already have a criminal history. So my thing is, like, when I see stuff like this, I be wondering, I be like, okay, did the young lady know about this already? Or if she may have not known about this already. Maybe she was just told in the blind. But though, my thing is, that's why you're supposed to know who you dealing with, know who you dating, know who you kicking it with. But ask some questions. Maybe she found out. That's probably why he, you know what I'm saying? Who knows?
Several time zones away from what happened and now is back in LA. Should he have stayed in Minnesota? Should he fought it? What do you think about all that?
It's a really interesting case because he was already in the system, let's say in Minnesota. There was actually an arrest warrant for him 2 months before he allegedly committed this murder. So they would have had things like his fingerprints on file. And so the fact that they were able to track him down to Minnesota is not as surprising, let's say, as if somebody who was never in the criminal justice system. It would have been much harder to find somebody so many states away. But in this case, because he had this record, he was in this system, that made it that much easier for the police to then be able to track him down, assuming that is how they tracked him down, were things like the surveillance and the fingerprints. But in terms of him fighting the extradition, I don't think he would have won, even if he had tried to fight it. So, clearly California has a right to be able to prosecute him for a crime that was committed within their jurisdiction. And he sounds like he still has, like a violation of probation and other things to deal with in Minnesota. So I don't know if his situation was that much better anyway, if he had tried to fight it and lost there.
Staying at Mooney's apartment at the time of her murder, but we still don't know what their connection is. Most of what we do know comes from the extensive autopsy report released before Humphrey's arrest, detailing his alleged crime. A medical examiner noted Mooney suffered blunt force trauma to multiple areas of her body, including head, neck, torso, and her extremities. It was September 12th when Mooney's mother called requesting a welfare check. After officers entered her apartment, they, quote, found Ms. Mooney's body wedged inside the refrigerator with pooled blood beneath it. Her wrists were bound together, her ankles were bound together.
Hold on. Did you just hear how they say they found this lady stuffed in a refrigerator? All types of trauma all over her body. This sounds like somebody who has done something like this before. You don't just wake up and just be this kind of person. Nah, I'm just not gonna jack that. I'm not gonna jack that. Let's get back into
together, and these bindings were tied to each other behind her back with miscellaneous electronic cords and clothing items. The report also states other clothing was found around Mooney's face and neck, including a gag stuffed inside her mouth. Based on what you read and the research that you've done on this case, do you believe that she was alive when she was put into the refrigerator?
Let's hope not. That would be a horrible situation. I mean, this is a really awful way for her to have died. I mean, really awful. She tried to defend herself and she couldn't, and to be bound. And I mean, it's every woman's worst nightmare. And whether or not she was slowly dying before the refrigerator had already died, so awful either way.
How important is it going to be to determine the exact time of death, the exact time of the murder? Because we know we saw her on that last day, September 6th, but then she wasn't found dead until 6 days later on September 12th.
The timeline is going to be very important, and for them to prove that that is the person who killed her, right, coming up the elevator. If it was 2 days before she died, then it's very easy for the person to argue that he was going up for some other reason. So it's that timeline. We will, the expert, the medical examiner
That's
who
wild.
will testify on the stand as to when she died. It will be very important in a situation like this. We do know a little bit based on the
That's right.
sister and saying that when she stopped communicating with them, that also helps the timeline. But that time of death that the expert will testify to will be crucial.
The autopsy doesn't make note of Mooney's time of death or her official cause of death. While manner of death is listed as homicide, it's not totally clear how she was killed. The ME wrote, quote, "There is suspicion for homicidal asphyxia in this case, but without findings to elucidate a clear mechanism of death or knowledge of the sequence of events leading to Ms. Mooney's death, the cause of death is deemed homicidal violence."
Dude is
It
psycho,
was
man.
listed as manner of death, homicide.
Dude is straight up psycho.
But there was no 100% cause of death. They said potentially strangulation, but it couldn't be officially determined. Is that something that could affect a jury, sway them one way or another if we don't know?
Now, how could y'all not know the cause of death after all this time? Like, I mean, I get it. She was put in the refrigerator. I understand she had trauma on this and trauma on that. But come on now. Y'all got to get this together.
For sure how she was killed?
I think usually that is very important. It seems like here they did say it was some sort of asphyxiation, but whether or not it was strangulation or whether or not it was something put in her mouth. Because I think when they found her, there was something in her mouth as well as her being bound and then put in the refrigerator. So clearly there was physical, and there was physical signs of her struggles. There was so much abuse to her body between the balance and the physical signs of defense, as well as something in her mouth. I don't think a defendant can argue that this was an accident in any means or anything like that. So
What, the man put a
usually
sock
that
in her mouth?
wiggle room, let's say, in the cause of death can be crucial. And
What did he like put like a gag in her mouth or something? Because that's what it looks like. That's what it seems like.
this case, especially because there was something found in her mouth, the way she asphyxiated may not be as much of a loophole, let's say, for the defense as it normally would be.
Notably missing from the autopsy report, any signs of sexual assault.
That was the most unusual part of the autopsy for me, because you would think in a situation like this young, beautiful woman by herself in her apartment, really gruesomely killed, would also be sexually assaulted. We see that a lot when we see violent men against women. There's also often both a sexual and non-sexual violent act against them, especially when they're going to kill the person. So the fact that there wasn't here, I thought was unusual. It could point to the fact that it was a woman and not a man, and possibly the defense will use that argument, although it's kind of a delicate argument for them to try to use. But that, I think, will be harder for the prosecution maybe to prove some sort of motive, because it's easier, I think, to say this was just like some man who was obsessed with her and, wanted to kill her because he spurned her. That kind of argument is a lot harder to make when there wasn't a sexual assault involved.
The autopsy notes that Mooney was last seen with both a man and woman getting on the elevator. Saig Dahl says that other woman will already be on investigators' radar.
Especially since they did find the man, or they're saying they found the man, then it wouldn't have been that hard, you would think, to connect them to this other woman. And that could be why it took so many months, is because they were trying to track down everybody that they could see on that surveillance footage and interview them. And it's possible a charge might still be brought against that woman. Just because it was brought against the man doesn't mean it won't be brought against the woman. Or we might see some sort of plea deal and have her testify. So this case is just beginning, I would say. This charge against him means that they feel like they have solid evidence against at least one person involved. But we will see more as this case unfolds.
A day after Mooney was last seen, surveillance surveillance video captures a man believed to be Humphrey using her key fob to get into the elevator carrying plastic bags. He was alone at the time. For the defense, I mean, how do they combat something like this? Is it possible that the defense could also have a strong case?
Yes, and especially with what you said, this other woman. I mean, when there's two people in footage like that, I mean, that's a classic defense argument. It's not me, it's that person over there. And sometimes they point to an unknown person. It's even better when they can point to a real person. And so their argument might be like, I have nothing to do with it. It's this woman, and the police didn't pay enough attention to her, or a whole bunch of other things. And that can work sometimes, because you're really just trying to, it's the reasonable doubt, right? Not that there's no doubt, but reasonable doubt. And you can create it when there's multiple people involved, and if the police haven't done a really thorough investigation. So it's really, we'll have to see what they did with their 6 months and how much they were able to cross off the other suspects in a way that the defense can't poke holes in.
Again, we're still super early in the case, but do you think this is one that will head to trial?
That's a really great question. We never know, but I do think it
question.
will, because
Good question.
again, most likely they have pretty decent evidence against him, because we talked about this, the surveillance footage alone would be pretty decent evidence. And it's possible they found some sort of DNA or fingerprints or whatever. And if that's the case, if they have multiple pieces of evidence, there really isn't an incentive from the prosecution's point of view to give him a plea that would be less than life. And then at that point, there's not much of an incentive for the defense to take that plea. Especially in California, where there is a moratorium on the death penalty. Telling a defendant that they won't seek the death penalty doesn't really.
Man, this dude, hey man, he wrong for that. He is definitely wrong for what he did to this young lady. Man, look at this lady, man. Beautiful young lady, man. Man, R.I.P. to her. R.I.P. to her.
Help them that much, knowing